Hey, how are you?
All right. A lot of cameras today.
Let's see. We're just clicking this guy forward and back.
Or
Okay.
the keyboard, which is the door there, so whichever you're comfortable with.
Okay. This should be fine. Yeah. I think we're set. Hello, how are you? Hey, Scott.
It did not look like this when I was in law school. You're calling about the law. So we're going. Oh, most of it's just.
Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming today. I'm Mark Rushing, representing University Relations. We're going to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions today. We'll do our best to answer them. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that Chancellor Steinmetz hoped to be here today. He is not. He's at the Board of Trustees meeting. Important stuff going on there as well. But he did want to pass off some comments to get us kicked off. I'll just read that for you. It's very similar in a way to the email that he sent out to the entire campus yesterday. So providing a safe and secure campus environment is vitally important to the University of Arkansas. I know you share this value, and I want to thank you for your participation in today's forum and for your commitment to campus safety. After the state's new concealed carry guidelines were signed into law early last year, we began an effort to create awareness about the details of the laws and how they would be applied to higher education. We began to ask for campus feedback in April and used the questions we received to help guide the information and resources available at safety.uark.edu. I hope that's been a useful resource for you. I know today's forum will also be productive as we now transition to the full implementation of campus carry throughout the state. Please join me in continuing to work together to provide a safe and secure learning environment for our campus community. Now again, most of our time today will be spent asking you for your questions, concerns, and our panel will do our best to answer. I'll go ahead and let you know who we have with us today. Steve Gahagans, Director of the University of Arkansas Police Department, Terry Martin, Senior Vice Provost for Academic Affairs, and Matt McCoy, Associate General Counsel, as well as myself. So, before we get into the first questions, I'd like to provide a quick overview. We've done this at some of the previous forums. Some of you may have attended some of those. There have been a few updates. We've actually had this is really our fourth forum, the second kind of campus public-wide. We had also a faculty senate forum, and then we had an off-campus forum to get things started last year. So the new concealed carry laws went into effect September 1st of last year. Enhanced certification is required for concealed carry on public university campuses in Arkansas, but the training needed to obtain that enhanced training permit wasn't available on September 1st. Arkansas State Police had 120 days to develop that process. That process is now complete. The ASP updated its concealed carry guidelines and is now offering enhanced certification training. So the enhanced training permits, that training is now available. Concealed carry is only allowed on campus to the extent specifically authorized by state law. That includes you must be 21 or over generally, with limited exceptions, must hold a valid concealed weapon permit, and, as I said, hold that enhanced training permit that is provided through the enhanced training certification process. Open carry is not allowed. Concealed weapons are prohibited from UA sporting and athletic contests, events, and practices with approved security plans, places and events with licensed and approved private caterers where beer and wine may be consumed, Gene Tyson Child Development Study Center, grievance and disciplinary hearings meeting certain requirements. So back to grievance and disciplinary hearings. The requirements for prohibiting concealed weapons from those hearings must be conducted in accordance with university procedures. They must last no more than 9 hours, held in a room that is no larger than necessary to complete the meeting. Participants must be notified at least 24 possession of a handgun is prohibited. Storage of concealed weapons on campus is prohibited with one exception: in a locked and unattended motor vehicle in a university parking lot. We have received questions in the past from faculty about whether or not they could add language regarding the concealed carry on campus to their syllabus, to syllabi. And the provost office has developed language. It's not mandatory, it's optional language that can be used by faculty who wish to do so on syllabi. So the language, I will read it now. Handguns are only allowed on campus, including classrooms, to the extent specifically authorized by state law. Each individual who lawfully possesses a handgun and an enhanced carry permit is required to keep the handgun concealed from public view at all times and is responsible for carrying the handgun in a safe manner. If an individual carries a concealed handgun in a personal carrier, such as a backpack, purse, or handbag, the carrier must remain within the individual's immediate vicinity within arm's reach. Again, this is syllabus language. During this course, you may be required to engage in activities that may require you to separate from your belongings, such as taking a quiz or examination, and thus you should plan accordingly. Any student who violates the concealed carry laws while on campus may be subject to criminal prosecution and/or discipline by the university, up to and including dismissal. If you observe someone displaying a handgun or other weapon on campus, it should be reported to the University of Arkansas Police Department. And again, safety.uark.edu is a resource for us all. That optional campus carry statement for syllabi is available online at the Teaching and Resources site, teaching.uark.edu. You can find the links from there. There's a lot of information about how to create a syllabus on that site, so that was the appropriate place to add this language. Again, for an overview of all the basics, there are FAQs, other resources, safety.uark.edu. And of course, if you have questions or concerns that haven't been answered, that you don't feel have been answered, please send them to feedback@uark.edu. And with that, it's time now for you to, if you have any questions, if you have comments, please let us know. It looks like, do we have a stationary mic or am I mobile? Looks like I'm a mobile person today. Is there a question over here somewhere? Yes.
I'm Michael Ria, the chair of theater, and the question I have is in regard to public performances at the University Theater and the Fine Arts Center. Sort of a twofold question. A, we see that athletic events are exempt from that. I'm assuming we are not. can we have in place policy that people are not allowed to bring bags into the theater? And if they are allowed to bring them into the theater, what do we do with those bags once they're in the theater?
I'm curious, what's your current policy?
Well, they can have backpacks if their students sort of taking notes and things for classes because it is required for some of our classes.
I think the important thing to remember is the law didn't change with regard to purses or backpacks when this act passed. Your question about whether you're presuming you cannot prohibit firearms or concealed carry handguns from coming into the building, that's right. The law does not create an exemption for that. I think it tends to draw attention to the theater if your policy is going to change to prohibit backpacks and purses now when you haven't done that in the past. Certainly the law makes clear that licensees have a right to carry a handgun. I would caution against implementing a policy like that because I think I think at least with some licensees would appear as though it's being crafted to prevent people, to separate people from their concealed carry handguns.
Of course, the portion in the existing law specifically addressed athletic venues and child care facilities and some, but other areas, organizations, facilities weren't addressed in the law.
Yes, hi, my name's Christy Ware, and I work in the philosophy department in Old Main. And my question was about lost and found items. Like often, like backpacks are left in classes and things like that, and they get turned in my office. I take them to the, but I don't. I mean, obviously, I can't ask somebody if they have a gun in their backpack and things, but I don't feel comfortable taking things in the lost and found now if it has a gun. So, what's the policy on that? Does that make sense? I mean.
Well, just like with any lost and found, if you have that situation, you can call UAPD and we can come to the area
So
and take
I call UAPD every time somebody leaves a gym bag in the hallway? I mean, it happens daily. I mean, should I? I mean.
Well, if it's something out of the ordinary, yes, I would call UAPD and let us come and check it out. And we are always available to come check a situation out if you feel there's something out of the norm, out of the ordinary, and so we would like the opportunity to be able to do that. If it's something that's normal, that's occurring every day, and you witness this every day, and there's nothing out of line, then perhaps that wouldn't trigger a call. But of course, if you think it's something that's a little bit suspicious or anything like that, please do.
That's the whole point. It's supposed to be concealed, so I don't feel comfortable having like even like an unattended backpack in my office. You know what I mean?
Then give us a call. If you're uncomfortable, give us a call.
And again, the law is that you have to carry the gun on your person in immediate vicinity within arm's reach. So it would be illegal to have a gun in a backpack or a bag and leave it without the person being next to it. Another question from over here.
My name is Kate Chapman. I'm faculty in psychology, and I have a question specifically about syllabus language. Before this wording was crafted by all of you, I had drafted my own syllabus language as of the start of the fall semester, and I forwarded it to my chair, and he forwarded it to the deans and legal, and there was sort of a pause button on that. But I was just looking at my old drafting of my language, and I included something about my personal preference, because on the safety.uark.edu site, there's a frequently asked question of, can I prohibit guns from my office? It says no. Faculty may state their personal preference that guns not be brought to class or offices, but they should acknowledge that concealed carriers with the proper license and enhanced certification do not have to comply with that preference and may not be penalized on that basis. So my question is, can I include that specific wording in my syllabus, you know, copying and pasting it from the FAQ with the website so students can see it, but say, my personal preference as faculty is that guns not be brought into my office or my classrooms, but blah, 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 I acknowledge legal language. Is that acceptable? Would the university support that language, given what's on the university's website at present?
You would always have the right to be able to put that in your syllabus. I mean, I would still make sure that you send that through that chain to your dean, to your provost, so that they approve your language. I have never seen the draft that you're talking about that you said you submitted. That's an accurate statement. A caution for that, though, if I were a student and I believed that you were treating me differently because I had a concealed carry, and I came to you for a grade appeal and you denied it, just be aware that that language would make you susceptible to them being able to claim that the basis for you, not granting the grade appeal or giving them an adverse grade was based on the fact that you don't approve of the concealed
Even though I
handguns.
wouldn't know that they have a concealed carry.
Well, I'm just
'Cause it's
saying, if the risk
concealed.
is that you find out, or they
Okay.
communicate it to you.
Okay.
No, it's a good point. Obviously, if you don't know, it won't be a factor, but I just want to make sure that you're aware of that going forward.
Yeah.
That,
Even though it says specifically on the university's website that we're allowed to express a preference?
well, I can't, even though they're going to say it. I'm just,
Okay.
I would imagine a
So it's
licensee.
sort of like a risk aversion
That's right.
piece. Okay.
That's
got it.
right.
Thank you.
You're allowed to also put other personal preferences, but you open yourself up. Your religious, different other aspects as well could possibly put you in situations you don't want to be in.
And I'm going to step out of my lane here a little bit, but I would say that we also try to look at uniformity across the board, to try to be consistent across the board, not necessarily preventing individuals from doing some extra language or putting extra language in there, but we wanted to make sure we had some uniformity, I believe.
Hi, I'm the Associate Dean of Fine Arts in Fulbright College, and in those three areas, as well as other places on campus, we don't sit in a classroom like this with our belongings right next to us. We actually have to set our belongings down and actually put on gear and use the wood shop and various other, and so the studio aspect of our programming would actually prevent, on many occasions, for a student to be able to have that backpack or purse or whatever nearby. And so I am wondering if we can formulate for those areas on campus some sort of syllabus that we can express, that we don't have to just do the 24 hours notice, but that in general, at any moment of a class, you would actually be separated from your belongings due to the nature of the course that we are teaching in.
I think that's with the syllabus statement that we have here, that they should make arrangements for that situation. It's up to the person that is carrying the concealed weapon to make arrangements to not violate the law themselves.
So the thing is that the entire semester, every single class period, would prevent a student to be able to have that concealed carry next to them. And so I would like to make sure that we're able to put that into even our policies for our departments to state that if you are taking these types of classes, even listing those classes, you will not be able to have your belongings next to you at all times.
Has that been your practice in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
So there's nothing that's changing there.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think, it's not the university's responsibility, it's not the college's responsibility, it's not the department's responsibility, it's not the faculty member's responsibility, it's the holder of that enhanced carry permit. And that's what that language is attempting to address. We don't have to worry about that. It's on the concealed. If you violate that, if you show up knowing that I'm going to have to be separated from my backpack, and I realize that I have stored my concealed carry handgun in my backpack today, it's on me to figure out how to address that. I don't come to the faculty member and say, can I please just leave my backpack with a concealed carry weapon in it today over there because I forgot? That's not your responsibility. It's not the university's responsibility. That concealed carry permit holder needs to figure out what to do at that point. Let me, let's do a follow-up since I'll bet we're in the same area.
Again, being in theater, we have a lot of classes that, fortunately or unfortunately, people touch one another. And in scene work, if a student, I'm not talking about a bag that is separated from the person, but if the student has a concealed carry on their person and they're doing a scene and a student comes to that and they have to hug or do something and they are off put by that, my question that I've been receiving is, does that student have to continue in the I mean, how do we handle that when a student is uncomfortable that their educational progress is impeded by the fact that somebody now that they have to do a scene with, and it could be, you know, who knows what type of scene, and they know that they have a weapon on them? What?
I mean, you may have an answer to that but I mean, someone may have bad breath or you don't like their cologne. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to feel uncomfortable by another human being. I don't think that's addressed in any way, shape, or form by the existing law. Does anyone have an additional comment?
I would say that's correct in a sense, but I would also, as much as you, and I don't know how you would orchestrate this, but as much as possible, when you have individuals that might be participating in plays and things of that nature, and it's somewhat already known that a person might have a concealed carry, to try to get out in front of it before the shock value happens. But there's nothing that prohibits that student from being able to carry even while engaging in plays. You can ask, they're just not obligated to answer. Yeah, you can ask, but they're not obligated to tell you.
The other point to note on that is that the law requires the handgun to be concealed. And so the licensee is going to have to anticipate if you have, there's a particular role that they're being played. That's a part of what we were trying to address in the syllabus, was to communicate to our licensees, you're going to need to make arrangements for certain classes, whatever the class obligations are. That may be one of them. If they know that there's no way to effectively conceal the handgun, they're going to have to make other arrangements that day. But the other thing I would caution everyone about is those policies regarding bags and purses should not be changing simply because of the law. I think it will draw more attention to the fact that there's the potential for someone to argue that their rights to carry a concealed handgun are being infringed, that's the intent of what's happening.
Hi, I'm Sandy Kaiser. I work for Walton College of Business. I'm going to see if I get some understanding of between the differences between this enhanced concealed weapon training or classes and the traditional concealed weapon classes.
Do you want to?
Well, I'll give you my answer. I thought it was kind of for the lawyer, but my understanding with the enhanced, it just allows you the ability to be able to carry a weapon in places that you otherwise were not able to carry it in, such as on the college campus. That's one of the, I mean, for us, one of the big changes is that before, even if you had a concealed carry, you could not carry a weapon on campus. Now the enhanced allows you to be able to do that.
Oh, I thought your question was about the specific, what's being taught in those 8 hours of enhanced.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was deferring to you, Steve.
And all of
what's
that's
being taught.
online. I mean, the Arkansas State Police updated its entire concealed carry guidelines for the state of Arkansas. Again, concealed carry is nothing new in Arkansas. We've had it for a couple decades. It's new to our campus. As a part of those guidelines, there are portions that address specifically the instruction required for the enhanced training permit. There's a link to that site, the easiest way, safety.uark.edu. Go to the campus carry information. There are policies, FAQs, policies that you can link to. There's a link to those guidelines there, and you can read exactly what is required, what the enhanced training involves, down to, how many shots are fired at this part of the test, what situations are presented, everything that the instructors now have to provide as a part of that enhanced training.
Right.
Steve,
and Sandy, I will say, and I will stick my neck out and say this, that I think the efforts are a little bit more formal, and I think it's a little bit more involved than what applicants in the past would have to go through for the regular concealed carry. So that was very good for me to see when I looked at the syllabus that they put out as far as what they were going to cover, because they covered a lot of things that I thought are very important. Even some of the information as far as how to be safe, how to store your weapon, and all of these sorts of things. So I think it has been improved, and the training will go up to 8 hours, and I'm hoping these instructors take about that whole 8 hours, even though they have some flexibility there.
It's made up of 5 to 6 hours of testing and different scenarios, and then there's an actual firing range portion of the test as well that I think is 2 hours.
Hi, I'm Ram Trajan in the faculty of the anthropology department. I have a question about how the concealed carry change relates to the diversity and inclusion initiatives that are happening on campus that are not part of the chancellor's kind of cores for the university's values. I'm one of many faculty members who have had students come speak to me about experiences of sexual assault that they've had either in town or on campus, or have had students who've had different experiences of racial discrimination or gender harassment come talk to me about those experiences. This also happens to different faculty members as well with microaggressions. And my question is, what discussion has there been at the kind of levels of the administration of how the concealed carry law is going to articulate with the diversity and inclusion initiatives on campus to make sure that, of course, everyone is safe, but also the awareness that there are different students and faculties who are harassed because of their different identities, and what is going to be done to protect them and provide the kind of safe learning environment for everyone that the slide started off saying that that is the mission of the university.
Well, I could just start by saying this forum is focused on concealed carry on campus, and one of the things that, obviously, this is mandated state law. It's not something previously we opted out every time we had the option. Now we don't have the option to opt out. And so we're trying to focus, and we've been focused for months on trying to create awareness of the law and its implementation and the questions and concerns our campus community has so that we can ensure a safe and secure learning environment for our entire campus community. If anyone would like to speak to the other proactive efforts we do in those other areas.
I would just say that this law, the concealed carry, is not going to change what we're trying to do with diversity and inclusion on campus. It's one of the priorities, the guiding priorities, and I would say the campus is still moving forward, and this should not have any effect upon it.
But if there's specific programming that you would like to see, you can call our department and we can customize any type of program that you would want to have delivered in your area or to certain groups of people, and we'll be happy to assist.
Thank you for the question. We want to have another one on this side of the room. We don't want to hog this side of the room over here.
I'm Janet Parsh. I work in Mullins Library in Special Collections, which is the archives area. I have several questions. I hope that that's not out of the rules here to ask more than one question at a time. I'm curious whether fundraising events that have alcohol are impacted at all by this. What's going to change in that regard?
Matt may be able to speak to this, but I believe firearms can be prohibited at events that are catered, that involve beer and wine. Just like firearms, handguns, concealed carry handguns can be prohibited at a grievance or disciplinary hearing, that doesn't mean a faculty member has to go through the procedures to prohibit firearms from those grievance and disciplinary hearings. Just means you have the option to do so if you want to follow the procedure. So I think that would apply to all events where beer or wine may be served. It can be prohibited, or the hosting body can decide not to. Is that?
That's accurate. The vendors that we utilize on campus would then have the ability to set up those signs during those particular activities to prohibit concealed handguns during that activity, as if beer, I think that the language beer or light wine are being consumed.
I've asked in these forums before about integrity board hearings and conduct board hearings. I'm wondering what kind of more detailed thinking has gone into how both the students and the board members will be safe in those kinds of hearings. I know I've seen the different bullets going up for what the rules are, but I'm interested in more details about how that's actually going to be implemented on campus.
There's signage. I can't remember exactly. You got 24 hours notice we have to post. There's signage. I think the facilities is developing that, and those hearings, as you mentioned, will be where the guns will be prohibited.
Will there be anything like metal detectors for all of the people participating in a hearing to have to go through?
That's not part of the plan at this point.
I do think part of the recommendations made are to make sure that those specific policies and procedures include the notice provisions. Currently, they're not in the policy, so that people will be clear that that particular process or policy is one where a concealed handgun would be prohibited on 24 hours notice. So I expect that our policies related to those particular procedures would be updated.
So it's an honor system that people would leave their weapons outside a room where a conduct board hearing is being held or integrity board. Right now it's an honor system.
To my knowledge, there is no effort from central administration, again, I'm out of my lane, from central administration that I have heard where they would plan to put metal detectors at these hearings and things of that nature. However, that would have to be a discussion probably outside of this forum if the individual department would want to see such an effort. And that would have to take place, and maybe some things would have to be worked through, but right now I don't know of any efforts by the central administration to say we will supply metal detectors for hearings or things of that nature. I don't think that's happening.
Third question, I'm wondering if security staff is being increased on campus, if UAPD is being helped at all by the types of questions that are, I think, going to come up just based upon the conversations going on here.
We are continuing with our long-term goals and plans to increase security as well as police officers on campus, and that's ongoing. This doesn't change that. We internally at the UAPD will be having meetings and discussions, especially with our supervisory staff, to make sure they fully understand the law, and then we will walk them through some tabletop exercises so that we can make sure that they're answering questions correctly. And so that would be taking place at UAPD to help us out so that we can give the best information out to our community.
Okay. My fourth question, which is maybe the easy one because it goes on what Jeannie and Michael have asked about. In special collections, we insist on all the backpacks being sort of deposited at the entrance to our research area because we don't want anybody putting materials that are unique materials from the collections into their backpacks. So I think what I'm hearing there is, and that's standard practice now, so I guess that we just need to make sure that the students and the public coming in are aware that their backpacks are going to be separated from their persons while they're using research services. Is that correct?
That's accurate. And I think the training components that were set out by the Arkansas State Police do make clear to those licensees that that their possession has to be concealed and on their person or within arm's reach. And I think a lot of that will be anticipated in how they deal every day with having a concealed handgun.
It's sort of, I'm thinking about the student who carries their backpack with them all day long and then at least theoretically should be putting it someplace else for them to come into special collections to use the materials, since it's supposed to stay within arm's reach.
So again, it would be incumbent upon the licensee to make plans to anticipate that in advance. If they don't and they're separated from their backpack and there's a handgun in there, they would be in violation of the law. But that would, again, that would be on them.
Yeah, again, the college department, special collections, not responsible for, making sure that what's in the backpack or who's being separated from their backpack, again, it's incumbent on the student or the faculty member or the staff member or the visitor to campus with the enhanced carry permit. It's incumbent on them, as stated in this syllabi language. We've also included that language scattered through the safety.uark.edu site. And I think that those questions have evened us up on side of the room. Do we have anybody in the middle? All right. Over here, we've got one.
There is one marked right here.
Ah.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today. My name is Josh Snyder. I'm a graduate student within the University of Arkansas system. And earlier, somebody had asked a question about racial and sexual discrimination and its relation to the new concealed carry laws. And it sounded like maybe there was some confusion about whether or not, and I apologize, I'm walking through my question and thinking it aloud, so I will get to it. But it seems to me that racial and sexual discrimination and concealed carry can in fact be connected to each other, especially with the idea that with people walking around with even concealed weapons on them, that this could be a new means of intimidation, especially with people who are different or who don't agree with you. And so my question is simply, what your plans are to respond to maybe an increased risk, or if you think there is an increased risk at all.
I appreciate your comments, but I will say, like with any other crime or any other feelings that I'm not being treated fairly, or any other situation where you feel that someone might be in a position to commit a crime against you, that doesn't change for UAPD. We should be called, and we will investigate all the calls that we receive. So if you feel any type of intimidation, if you feel something is not going right, or even if you're suspicious about something, please give us a call and allow us the opportunity to check it out and make sure everything's okay.
And so I guess my follow-up question is, it sounds like this, having a new means to intimidate people could lead to an increase in this, and are you prepared, and have you had to change anything to prepare for that?
Well, we're prepared in general for any type of harassment. And I don't think we're going to do anything different just because this law has passed, because we are responsive to any situation where someone feels they might be a victim of some type of crime.
The same goes for our policies too. It's not going to lighten the strength of our policies with regard to threatening or intimidating behavior.
I have a question. Scott Flanagan, Student Affairs. So it looks like in order to get the enhanced carry permit, you have to have a Arkansas concealed carry permit. Is this correct? So if you are a student who is from Texas and you hold a Texas concealed permit, you cannot come to Arkansas and get a concealed enhanced permit to carry on campus.
Are you clear?
No, the Arkansas State Police has, in their rules and regulations, set forth a process for an out-of-state licensee on concealed carry and how they would be able to either apply to get that license recognized within the state or meet the enhanced requirements for that. Those are also online, too.
And do you guys have any idea of, or how many people do you think will, once this is available, will carry on campus, concealed carry? I know you've probably thought about it, but have you ideas of how many people you think will come to campus? And then do you have a mechanism of allowing those people to let you know that they're concealed carry, just so that all of the police and security are aware?
Second question, no. And we are thinking about it. All we have is anecdotal stories, so to speak, as far as when we ask the question, if we're doing presentations. I would say that I was quite surprised at the number of people that said that they do plan to go and get an enhanced carry. I wasn't quite expecting that. So in some of the presentations that I've done, I have posed that question. So that somewhat surprised me. But as far as definitive answers on the numbers and things of that nature, we just don't know. My gut tells me it'll be a very small percentage.
We couldn't really speculate. I mean, we won't have a list and won't know a year from now. But I think there's been some reporting. I see Jaime Adame in the back there. I think it was Jaime that recently did a story on the university and asked the question, how many, you have to be 21 and up to apply. So how many, this is the only number that I can give you. We know that there are a little less than 6,000 students living on campus. How many of those students are 21 and up? I believe the statistic was around 250 or so of the students living on campus. Faculty, staff, students living off campus, members of the community visiting campus, those are other folks. But as far as students living on campus, the percentage was around 250. Please don't quote me on that. I believe it was slightly under 250 out of 6,000 students living on campus are 21 and up, but those would be the only ones even eligible to apply for the enhanced training.
And
unless they have a military exception.
Yes. And among those living on campus, the only place they would be able to store those would be in their locked, unattended vehicle, too.
Question up front.
Hello, I'm a student here at the University of Arkansas and live in the dorms. I was curious when the enhanced carry class would be offered, and if like there would be places here where we could take it, because where I'm from, you basically have to have a concealed carry, because where I'm from Northeast Arkansas, and my hometown is the the worst place to be at night. So I was curious when we'd be able to take the enhanced permit, and what's the difference between the regular and the enhanced?
Sure, and I could start off. All of that information is available online, safety.uark.edu, and really it's a link that takes you to the guidelines that the Arkansas State Police have established. Now, I don't want to speak for the Arkansas State Police. If you have any questions specifically about that, I think you should go to the Arkansas State Police and ask the questions there. We are under the understanding that the Arkansas State Police is now instructing the instructors who can provide the enhanced training. We believe the first testing was yesterday. And so we're considering, again, I can't speak for the Arkansas State Police or the instructors who passed that training yesterday, but the way that I think the university, and I think the way that we should move forward and approach it is, if there are instructors who are now certified to teach the enhanced training, that they can begin scheduling those enhanced training courses, whether that's today, whether the first training is happening today, or it's Saturday, or it's next Saturday. We feel that this is full implementation. Instructors are now training. The permits are now available. Now, would there potentially be some time in between someone finding out when the course is, signing up for the enhanced training, taking the enhanced training, passing the enhanced training, actually going through the administrative process in the mail to get your permit, and then being legal to carry on campus? Sure, but we're not going to speculate about that. We feel the instructors are trained, the permits are available, and so we are acting proactively to move forward with campus carry at the University of Arkansas. A follow-up question?
And I will add, there will be instructors in Northwest Arkansas that will offer that class.
Hi again, sorry. Has the administration discussed anything with CAPS about the increased potential for suicide via gun, which is especially high risk in young men, statistically? Has anyone talked about that? Because that's certainly a concern that came up in a lot of the town hall meetings this past fall, some of which I attended. That was a big conversation with some psychiatrists and psychologists in the community. And so even if aggression towards another person is not something everyone is worried about, self-harm is something that absolutely could be. And I was wondering if the administration is taking any kind of proactive stance or action to provide more services or interventions or anything like that to try to protect the people on our campus from themselves.
I would say that I'm not aware of anything that the upper administration has done, but I'm sure that CAPS are making plans to address whatever issues that come forward from this. It's early in this what we're experiencing. So I'm sure they will respond, and we will respond accordingly. If there's a need for it, we will try to address it as it arises.
And I think that's been the case for several years, increasing staff, Pat Walker Health Center, increasing the number of counselors available. I think the university is aware that that is a real issue for our campus community, and so we will continue in those efforts.
Mary Alice can probably address that.
Introduce you to Michelle Cooper, who is our suicide prevention coordinator, and that she started out half-time, now it's full-time suicide prevention. We are increasing our efforts. We're working with faculty and staff and students to learn how to speak to people who are in crisis and to refer them to places where they can seek help. It's a very, very active program.
We are very concerned about this issue, extraordinarily concerned. We know that for the first time this year in the 2016 data that the CDC has released regarding suicide deaths in the United States, that firearms have been the majority of the deaths, 51%. We know that 95% of the time that somebody uses a firearm in a suicide attempt, that they will die, compared to about 5% in other means. And so means matter. And we're very concerned about this, and we are actively addressing it and hoping that administration will partner with us on this as we go through and work on this.
I think that was a serious concern that was identified even before this law passed by just about every college and university in the state. And so they uniformly shared that same concern.
Question in the back over here.
Hi, I work at Walton College of Business Office of Diversity and Inclusion. If a student comes into the office and they are aware that somebody is carrying a concealed weapon and it disturbs them, to whom do we refer them? What do we do with them? Where do we send them for, what do we do?
Well, there's no violation of law. But if there's a concern, you're saying the student is concerned that they know of another student carrying?
Yes, and they're concerned for their own safety, and they come to us because it's a safe place for them. What do we do with them? I mean, can we do we send them to a website? Do we send them to counseling?
Well, from where I say, you could have several options. Number one, you could send them to the website so they can become educated. Or number two, you can refer them to Student Affairs to where they can give that student some assistance in understanding the law or taking extra measures to make sure they are trying to accommodate that student with those fears, or CAPS or a department like that where they can go seek some assistance. Okay. But that's what I think I would do to try to help that student out. But of course, there's not a violation of law, and they would have to understand that there's been no law violation. But yeah, we're here to help you, and here are some options for you.
So Student Affairs or CAPS?
I would say Student Affairs, CAPS would be a good choice.
Thank you.
That also presupposes that that student is aware that they are validly carrying a concealed carry permit. Broadly, if any student, faculty, staff, administration sees a gun on this campus and you don't have that awareness about the right to carry that as a concealed weapon, our default has to be to call UAPD and report a firearm, because if they do not have the knowledge as to whether or not that they're carrying that pursuant to the concealed handgun license. I mean, otherwise, I don't know how you distinguish between someone who has an intent to harm people and someone who's validly carrying.
Yes, as we've said at previous forums, you know, if you see a handgun on campus, you should call UAPD, because it's supposed to be concealed. And even if that's an accidental thing, someone accidentally exposes a concealed weapon, we don't know, and it should be reported. And then the other, second part of that is if you see anyone using a gun in a threatening manner, you call 911. I mean, that's, I hope we're all in alignment with that. I think we've got a question on the other side.
Yes, my name is Patsy Ferreter, and I'm an alumni of the University of Arkansas. And I keep hearing so much about how important it is for those guns to be readily at hand for the person who chooses to carry a gun? What is the point of having that be so close? Is that to keep someone else from grabbing it and using it in maybe a way that is not a good idea? Or what is the purpose? Is the person with the gun supposed to have such an advantage to protect himself that all the rest of us are just vulnerable? It's such a ludicrous law. My question is the university trying to find a way to get away from this law, to have the law changed, to get the guns off of campus instead of spending so much time trying to, what's the word I want? Try to go along with the law. Is there an equal effort being put forward to get rid of it?
I can say that we worked diligently. We were not in favor of the guns on campus. The campuses, if you go back and look at the history, when all the universities in the state of Arkansas had a chance to opt out, they did opt out of having the guns on campus. We were not in favor, and we are not in favor of that. But the law, we will abide by the law, and we are bound to do that.
Some way to combat it, to change the law, to get the people unelected who voted the law in. I would like to put all of my efforts into doing that instead of conforming.
I think, as you know, the case is for any law in the United States of America and the state of Arkansas. I mean, somebody voted for it, and so you know, as a citizen of Arkansas and the United States, you have a right to express your displeasure with elected officials. You have the option to reach out on either side, obviously, of where you stand on any law. I think Terry has summarized the case of, again, for many legislative sessions, every public institution in the state opted out. These laws passed overwhelmingly in the Arkansas legislature in the last session. So while the university has expressed that in the past, and potentially all citizens have the right to continue to express that in the future, right now, full implementation of these laws is in effect, and we have to focus on that too.
I have several questions. First, I think I want to address, I at one time was helping my daughter choose whether to come to the University of Arkansas. Now, will the concealed carry law be in information that's given to incoming students? Will they be aware, if they read all the information, that this is a law that's in effect in Arkansas? Have you made a decision? I've got other questions, so I'm going to keep the microphone.
I've not been.
You have not addressed that yet?
I don't know.
No,
Wow.
It's
Okay,
it's certainly it's out of the things that we have on our website, the forums that we
but
have.
not in information
As
that
far as
goes to recruiting students.
I have not seen the materials for this next year, but probably not.
Do
Any
you
kind
feel
of
like
direct-
that will not be giving students the entire picture of what it means to attend the University of Arkansas?
I think it's
and
pretty
their
common
danger
knowledge.
in coming here?
I think it's pretty common knowledge, and
I don't know if in Oklahoma, and that's where I'm from, and that's where my daughter came from to go to school
and many
here.
states already have concealed carry laws in place, and many others are in the process of considering that. I'm not trying to.
No,
I'm
I'm
in no
coming at
manner
it as a
defending the law.
parent.
I'm just saying the reality is, Arkansas is not an island. This is sort of a growing trend in the United States at this time.
Yeah, I don't care whether it's a growing trend. I want to know if I send my child here or other people that are considering sending their children here, whether you're going to tell them the whole truth. about whether there's, I'm sorry.
Of course,
As a
yeah.
parent, my concern is their safety.
We're not going to hide that fact from anyone, yes.
Well, I would
I don't
urge
know if
you-
there's anyone from admissions or enrollment services here today to answer that specific question, but
Well, I would urge you as a parent to consider what you're going to do. I don't know, I'm not a legal expert, but if there's an incident and my child is killed on the University of Arkansas, will that open the University of Arkansas up to a lawsuit?
Not under the law the way it's written today.
Yeah, that's really sad.
No,
I mean, I don't want the university to be sued, but I don't know. I think you should really consider whether you let your students know what is happening on the campus. But anyway.
say you had another question. We have a few
yeah,
minutes left.
Do professors have to let students know whether they're carrying a concealed weapon?
Would you repeat your
Do
question?
professors or instructors have to let students know whether they're carrying a concealed weapon?
No.
No.
Not
Okay, I'm sorry, I was uninformed on that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, here's a question over here.
Hi, my name's Adrian. I'm a student here. Might be a little out of left field, but has there ever been an incident where a concealed carry permit holder has committed a school shooting?
I'm not aware of school shootings, but I do have a list of some of the other schools in the process of going through the research. I know the oldest law that was passed was in Colorado in 2003. And Colorado State University reports no incidents of concealed holders displaying or discharging a firearm since 2003. And the University of Colorado Boulder has had one accidental discharge. In the research and going through some of those, I was not able to find where there was an actual school shooting by a concealed carry holder, but there were instances on campuses where there was an accident. You know, where there was an unintended discharge of or display. But those are still, given the population of those campuses, still relatively low. It was a good question.
I have time for maybe 1, 2 questions. Anyone on that side of the room going once?
And back just to address briefly the question on admissions, I do think it's a little unfair we don't have anybody from admissions to address that, and they very well could have that already addressed or something they want to communicate. It just wouldn't typically be something any of the three of us would be writing right now.
Hello, my name is Dr. Huda Sharaf. I'm the medical director at the Pat Walker Health Center. I've been practicing medicine for 20 years. I can honestly tell you that I've never worked in a facility that allowed a concealed weapon, whether that was a hospital or a clinic or even a mental health facility. So I have a lot of providers, physicians that are very, very worried just by the nature of what we do. We see students, faculty, and staff that are in medical or mental health crisis. We see those folks on a daily basis. We're alone with patients in exam rooms or offices. It's a vulnerable situation for the patient as well as sometimes for the provider. I cannot imagine a physician or a medical provider carrying a gun underneath their white coat, which under this current law they would be allowed to do, and go into an exam room. I can only imagine what a patient would feel like if they actually visualized that weapon and the lack of trust they would have in the provider in the room. It's my understanding that UAMS is not allowing this. Is that correct?
There is a specific exemption in the law that if they present a security plan, they're permitted to exclude handguns from the facility. So to what you're saying, it's for the same reasons that you're identifying. That's right.
It is. It's just, again, because of the nature of the population on this campus that we see. And so, you know, we've had disgruntled patients. We've had patients not get what they want. Maybe they'll be angry because they don't get a doctor's note that day, as a traveler stated this morning. The bottom line is that there's got to be some type of a stipulation to maintain that trust within the exam room or the office without a weapon being involved. So it would be nice to be considered with UAMS in that law.
It's my understanding, and I would defer to others who are more closely involved, but it was my understanding that administration on this campus was pressing for that to be included, just like UAMS, but that it did not make it into to the bill and did not pass in the legislation.
I see. Because when you look around town and you go into doctors' offices, you see signs immediately that face you when you enter the building, basically stating that weapons are prohibited in this facility. One of the things we've discussed is there any possible way to list that type of signage on our facility just to make sure that people understand it's a safe place. But again, under this law, our hands are tied, So you can understand there's a lot of fear in our facility, so.
For almost 35 years, I've been coming to this campus, and I come up Dixon Street, and there's been a sign there that says weapons are prohibited on this campus. I also see in Fulbright College, the mantra there is peace through education. My question is how do I get myself into gear to start realizing that this campus is not as safe because of this law as what it has been in the past. This has been an island of peace through education, through learning, through what we are all about. And for us to start thinking that there's peace through somebody having a weapon on campus and being able to promote their point of view because of that kind of threat. I guess my question is how can I, as a faculty member, start coming to grips with a different frame of mind for what we are doing here on the campus?
I'm not sure exactly how to address that. There's a lot of things that change in our lives, in our lifetimes. A lot of things that are good, what we consider good, some things that are not good. I think we all will have to deal with that in different ways. My hope is that our campus, the safety of it really in reality will not change dramatically. Indications from other states, as Matt indicated, the statistics show that it has not changed dramatically because of that. This is the law. We'd have to live with it. There's other laws that we may not agree with, but I think for the most part, I think our campus will remain a safe place to be.
And I would add, this is the law today. That doesn't mean it's going to be the law going into the future. And you all know what that means. That means if you want to change the law, then you have to go to work and work with your legislators and hope for the right conditions to see the law either revised or totally changed. But it's the law today, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the law next year or the next year to next year. So I'll leave you with that.
I'll just say that, the signs have been changed around the major entrances to campus. They still say guns are prohibited. Handguns are still prohibited on this campus unless you meet a series of 21 and up. You've got the concealed carry license. You've got the enhanced training. It's still prohibited unless you meet very certain requirements. That's another element. It is past 11 o'clock. I think we've got to wrap it up today. If you have additional questions, thoughts, concerns, please send them to us. Continue to do so. We appreciate all of those questions and the feedback we've received over the past 10 months as we've been preparing for this day. So thank you. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.